Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a trauma coach who works with Muslim women. I help Muslim women from all over the world heal from complex trauma and reinvent themselves. So if that's something you are interested in or looking for a coach to help you do that, you can go to the links in my description to learn more about my group coaching program and one-on-one options. I'm starting a series. I don't know what I'm going to name the series yet, but maybe just trauma healing series, but a series on here are all the things I believe that someone who is healing from complex trauma needs to know. And so this is the first video in the series, and I highly urge you to watch this from the beginning until the end for one reason and one reason only. This video is going to be the foundation for all the other videos. If you do not watch this video and you don't understand the concepts in this video, everything else is not going to make sense. And additionally, you're going to find yourself really lost on your healing trauma journey. So let's talk about it, inshallah. What is the number one thing that I think everyone needs to know before healing trauma? And I think that everybody needs to understand the nervous system. So let's dive straight into that, inshallah. The nervous system, when you hear someone mention it in that way, and you're hearing it tossed around a lot on social media, but a lot of people don't actually understand what they're saying when they say nervous system. So the nervous system is a system of our body comprised of our brain, spinal cord, all the nerves that come out of it. It's a communication and basically the master computer of our body, constantly sending signals back and forth between the brain in different parts of our body. It's extraordinarily complex, subhanAllah. And I know this because I studied this in when I was studying medicine in PA school. When things go wrong with the nervous system, they go really wrong. And the nervous system is broken up into several different branches. When you hear us on the internet kind of talk about the nervous system or say nervous system, we're actually usually talking about one branch called the autonomic nervous system. Now, stay with me. I know this is getting technical, but I promise you it's going to make sense. Just bear with me a bit. The autonomic nervous system, autonomic sounds like automatic. That's a way for you to understand, is the automatic part of our nervous system that is tasked with one big important thing, which is keep us alive, to keep us alive. And it is broken up into two subsequent systems called the sympathetic and parasympathetic. How are we going to remember that? Sympathetic, S for stress. Parasympathetic, R for rest. Okay. Now, most of the time, in a healthy individual who hasn't experienced trauma, you are living in parasympathetic, mostly. Parasympathetic is the rest and digest system. It is what I'm in right now, right? When I'm just, actually, hold off on that. When I'm just sitting around, lounging, eating, digesting my food, sleeping, I'm supposed to be in parasympathetic. This is where the functions of the organs in our body are at their healthy optimum. They're doing what they need to do. We are calm, we are stress-free, our body is digesting food, it's sending an appropriate amount of blood flow. We are not super highly focused, we're just doing our thing. It's where our body wants to be majority of the time for the sake of preservation, to preserve our organ systems and our health. Now, the parasympathetic, think of it like a light switch, right? So when we're on parasympathetic, we're not in sympathetic, just like a light switch is only on or off, right? So parasympathetic is on, then sympathetic is off. Now, what happens when something requires our immediate attention, focus, and especially if it's related to danger or our safety? Our nervous system switches the light switch off to sympathetic. Sympathetic stress. This is our stress response. This is often referred to as the fight-flight response. Although it is so much more complicated than that, we're just going to use that for simplicity's sake. Like I said, this video is just giving you guys the basics so you understand it moving forward. The fight-flight response is, or the sympathetic nervous system response is the response that our body needs to go in to protect us. So the typical example you hear is like, let's say you're taking a hike and you hear something rustling in the trees and you see, oh my God, it's a grizzly bear. Your nervous system is going to immediately switch on into the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight nervous system, because it is time to protect you. It doesn't have time to rest. It doesn't have time to care about you digesting your food. Who cares if your food is digested and if your blood flow is nice and calm if you're dead? So the sympathetic nervous system switches on, and there is immediate impulses sent to basically, the major organs of our body. Our pupils start to dilate, our heart starts to beat faster, blood is sent away from the digestive organs and kind of like the unnecessary processes to our muscles to prepare us for the possibility of having to run away or to fight for our life, right? Our body gets flooded with several different hormones and neurotransmitters, which are kind of chemicals that our nervous system uses to send signals. And this is where adrenaline comes in. We are ready to do whatever needs to be done to keep us alive. So we hear about it with the grizzly bear discussion, but it can even be with something a lot smaller than that. Let's say you're about to public speak. Let's say you're about to take an exam, and it's a really important exam. Your body will switch on into this sympathetic nervous response because it needs you to succeed in this. It needs you to protect yourself. And there's a lot of theories around how this goes. I mean, you don't need to know that for the sake of what you're trying to learn here, but know that it goes into that temporary place. This is incredible. This is such an amazing tool for our survival. SubhanAllah. Every time I think about it, it blows my mind because I'm like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us so perfectly to be able to move from this parasympathetic to sympathetic. So once the danger is gone, you outran the bear, or you realize, oh, it actually wasn't a bear. It was just like a little squirrel that was in the bush, right? And you got nervous and thought it was something because you were alone and you're in the woods, right? What ends up happening is our nervous system, again, in a healthy functioning nervous system without trauma, goes straight, it starts to, slowly switch back onto parasympathetic. And so now your heart rate starts to slow down. Your lungs are not in need of as much oxygen CO2 exchange. Your pupils start to go back to their normal size. They're no longer super dilated to try to let a lot of light in so you can see what you need to see. And your digestive organs start to get the blood flow again, right? We're moving back into parasympathetic. That is what is supposed to happen. We, in the trauma world, in the world of healing trauma, have to know this very well. And subsequently, people like you who are watching this, who are trying to heal trauma, need to know this very well. Because what does trauma do? Trauma disrupts the normal functioning of the nervous system more than anything. And this is really important to talk about because in the past, and unfortunately actually still today, the majority of mental health practitioners still follow this old way of thinking. The nervous system discussion wasn't even happening. People weren't even considering attempting to work with clients that had complex trauma. They weren't even bringing the nervous system into the conversation, and they were trying to address it in the way that they would typically address depressive disorders or anxiety disorders, which is through a cognitive behavioral model, which means we focus on your thoughts, we try to shift your thoughts, and then we shift your behaviors. And that works amazing for certain conditions. It does not work very well for trauma. And I know I get a lot of slack from therapists online when I'm saying this, but that's just the truth. That's what the current research on trauma and complex PTSD shows us. And as someone who has worked with clients from literally all over the world with complex trauma, who have also been to therapy and tried these kind of the old way of thinking and the methods from it, I can confirm, yes, you have to know you have to work with the nervous system. So healing trauma requires this understanding of the nervous system and working with the nervous system first. Why? When a traumatic experience happens, what is a signal to the autonomic nervous system, the automatic nervous system split into sympathetic and parasympathetic? It signals that something happens that's unsafe. But instead of it going from sympathetic back to rest and digest parasympathetic, the nervous system stays stuck in sympathetic. Why is this not a good thing? Well, sympathetic response, it was never meant for anything other than short spurts, short periods of time. Our body can't handle that constant outpour of cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and norepinephrine and epinephrine and all these, which are neurotransmitters, also known as adrenaline. It can't handle that. It is too taxing on our body. It's too taxing on our immune system. It's too taxing on our digestive system. It's too taxing on our cardiac system. This is why trauma is linked to so many health disorders. And as someone who practices medicine, this is why I'm so passionate about it, because I would have so many patients who came in with these health conditions that are not explained by any, common disease process, and ended up being linked to trauma. And being able to provide them with that information, almost no medical providers were able to offer them that information, but it allowed them to change their life because they now knew what the root cause was. It wasn't just that their blood pressure was high because, it's random and we don't know, or you need to exercise more. Of course, exercise is extremely important for managing high blood pressure, but there would be patients that would do all of that. They would work out, they would eat properly. They were on even medications, and we were maxing out meds and it's not working, until I find out what happened. Oh, your body's in a constant state of fight or flight. Of course your blood pressure is always going to be up because your body thinks you're in danger. So that sympathetic response never turns off, because your body your brain took that memory of the traumatic thing that happened, and it stores it, and it says, hey, this is dangerous. We need to constantly be on alert for this danger so it never happens to you. It's easy to blame our body and blame our brain for what's going on. It's easy to say like it's not working. But the reality of it is the autonomic nervous system in trauma is working. It's working the way that it should, in the sense of it's trying to protect you from danger, but it just didn't understand what danger was or wasn't. And so the first part of the healing trauma journey isn't about unpacking your trauma, isn't about talking about your trauma, isn't about, finding ways to prep your, change your daily routine so you feel more productive, so you can be distracted from your trauma. It's learning how to teach your nervous system how to go from sympathetic back to parasympathetic. And when you've been traumatized and you've been in sympathetic, especially for a very long time, you need very particular methods to get it to learn how to go back to parasympathetic. To my clients, I call this introducing safety to your nervous system, reintroducing safety to your nervous system, right? Making your nervous system feel safe. And fun fact, the nervous system is connected to every part of the body. So your body is also part of the equation. And so when your nervous system is not regulated, we say dysregulated, i.e. it's in sympathetic and it's not doing that, short-term sympathetic back to parasympathetic, because your body will show us. And so some people might not know, how things are going on, but as a trauma coach, I can tell just by what their body is doing. Where do you feel your tension? What happens when you are in the middle of this task? Why? And there are lots of questions and explorations we can do. But that is step one. Step one of doing trauma work is starting to teach your nervous system how to move into parasympathetic. It is one part, not the entire part, which is something a lot of trauma coaches will talk about. This is called nervous system regulation. And the reality of it is you can regulate your nervous system. That doesn't mean your trauma went away. It is just the foundation I start with my clients. And I just had a client the other day who is in the trauma group coaching program, and she sent me a voice note. I voice note my clients throughout the week and kind of get a sense of how they're doing. And she was talking about how she was like, it makes so much sense now that they're on week 8 of the program. She's like, it makes so much sense that you start off the program with so much nervous system work, because that's the first part of the program that we do. She's like, now I know what to do. Now I have the tools to regulate my nervous system. Now I know actually how to heal trauma. When she had been to therapy, with so many different practitioners, she used to have such an intense fight or flight response. Whenever the trauma would get brought up, she couldn't even process it. And that's literally how it goes. You're not able to process trauma if your nervous system isn't going to let you. Your nervous system isn't going to let you because it sees it's unsafe. Until we teach our nervous system how to feel safe again, you're not going to be able to touch into your trauma. And then we're on this constant hamster wheel of just re-traumatizing ourselves. So I hope that this video was helpful and I gave you a really good understanding of the autonomic nervous system and how trauma affects it, and gives you hope that this can be dealt with. It is only one part. Most coaches only focus on that part. They just focus on the kind of nervous system regulation, moving back to parasympathetic. In my program, that's not the only thing you're learning, because that's not the only thing you need to heal trauma. There's another thing you need to heal trauma, which I will talk about in future videos. But for now, if you have liked this video, please hit like, comment below, inshallah, and subscribe if you haven't. And if this interests you in the trauma group coaching program, we're taking client applications for January 2025. Go to the link in my description, inshallah, to learn more. Assalamu alaikum.